So all this time, you think you've been doing it right, but my guest, Chula Beauregard, is going to prove you wrong. Chula, what are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about something that most artists get wrong, especially if you're first starting, but I'm going to give you the tools to do it right.
Oh man, that's so powerful. And this applies to any artist. It could be watercolor, pastel, oil, acrylic, gouache, sewing, anything really. Okay, well, we're looking forward to it. We'll get right to it. Okay, Chula, I got to know more. What are the things that artists typically get wrong?
You know, we get wrong how light works in the landscape.
Yeah.
So it's coming from the sky. It's going to be the brightest in the sky. And then after that, it's hitting flat on the ground. So your ground is going to be the lightest value. And
okay, so let's just play this out. So this is horizontal. The light's coming from somewhere up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is anything that's got a flat surface is going to catch the most light.
That's right. Yep, because it's coming from the sky. We're talking outdoors, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so it's coming from above, so that flat plane is always going to be your lightest value, except for, of course, the sky itself.
Okay, so for the people who don't know what a value is, the lightest and darkest value, you looks like you have a chart behind you. Can you just explain what a lightest and darkest value means?
Sure. Value is just lights and darks. It's really simple. It's how your eyes see lights and darks. It's a fancy word for that. And I have here a value scale, which is from dark, the black, to white in 10 steps.
Okay. All right. So that's what you mean by values. I get that. All right. So I'm going to let you take over and start your teaching. This is going to be good, folks. You're going to love this.
On. All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So I put together a slideshow because I don't know if you guys are the same, but I really have to see it in a, on like a flat surface to understand it. Talking doesn't work that well for me. But one of the books that's helped me the most is this one. And there's a landscape, or there's a link to this that we're sharing with you. Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. It's pretty much landscape painting Bible for everyone. There's one page in here. I feel like it gets overlooked. To me, it's the most important page. It starts out really dry, angles and consequent values. So I've made a slideshow that Amandine can show you right now to break this all down. All right, so we have the value zones and the planes, okay? So if it's upright, if it's a vertical thing like a post or a tree or a person, it's getting the least amount of light from the sky. So it's gonna be your darkest. And as that tips to an angle, a slanted surface, it's going to be the next darkest. Here in Colorado, I'm in Steamboat Springs. I get to paint slanted surfaces a lot because it's the mountains. And that's that next darkest value. And then as it tilts even more and becomes completely horizontal, it's a flat surface, that's catching the most light from the sky. And it's going to be your lightest value within the landscape, except for, of course, the sky, because the sky is where the light's coming from. That's always going to be the lightest.
So is nothing ever brighter than the sky?
Well, you might have some reflections from the sky, but no, right, that's going to be the lightest value.
Now, that's a trick question, of course, because there are going to be exceptions to that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's always something to check up, but I'm not simple here today.
All right, so I'm going to give some, I just want to make sure everybody gets this. So if you've got a tree standing up in front of you, that tree is going to be potentially one of the darkest things in your painting.
Correct.
Right? Because it's not catching light directly from the sky. It might be catching light on the edge or the side.
Or the top.
Or the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then if you've got a flat surface, it's going to catch the second most amount of light unless there's a cloud shadow or something.
Right.
And if you've got a mountain in the background or a roof line that's at an angle, that's going to be what you would call a slanted surface. That's the second most amount of light.
Yes. And I actually show this when I'm painting outdoors and doing a workshop. I just take a piece of paper and tilt it. And as it tilts, you can see the effect of the light changing as the surface changes.
Okay, let's do that right now. I want you to grab a piece of paper. We're going to put you on camera again. And
Unfortunately, the light's not coming from above, but yeah, it would normally be, the light is.
okay, but show everybody how you would do that
Okay,
outdoors.
it's for outdoors, right? So
Okay.
it's for outdoors, and I have a white piece of paper.
Okay, back up a little bit because we can't see. No, the other way. There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Right. So I would take my piece of paper, the light is coming from above, and this would be dark value. And as you tilt it, you could see it catching more and more and more light until it was completely horizontal, and it would be really light.
Yeah, that's assuming you didn't have a light in front of you instead of you having a light on top.
If you're outdoors, right? And
Yeah.
like
Okay.
open air. Yeah.
All right. Terrific. So let's look. You have a painting behind you.
Yes. Yeah.
And by the way, that's a beautiful painting, and I love your the painting of the airplane that you have. That we
Thank
showed.
you. That I'm very proud. That was a presidential award at OPA last year.
Oh, it's stunning. So that's a Stearman biplane.
Yes. Yes.
And I went up in one of those with a pilot, and he was doing spins, and my buddy went along. Another time my buddy came out and let's just say he was blowing chunks.
Whoa, yeah. We went to the Rhinebeck Aerodrome. My husband's really into planes, and we watched that one fly, and it was like, is that for World War I? Why is that in the air?
Yeah, the wings are basically cloth.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really beautiful. But in this one here,
yeah,
this is a really great example of light hitting the planes. So maybe you can just talk us through this one while we keep the slide up for a second.
Yeah, perfect. In fact, this is the demo I'm going to do. So this.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, then we'll just let you do it.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, let's run through a little bit more slides and then we can tackle. All right. So then when we talk about these value zones or planes, it helps. Carlson actually puts it what it looks like in real life. And when you see it, it's like, oh yeah, that's a landscape painting. You have the dark silhouettes of the things that are upright. You have the slanted hill in the background. You have the ground that's lightest, and then the sky is where the light's coming from. So it's the lightest place.
So you've confused me here.
Okay.
All right. So there's that middle tree there. It kind of looks like a gumdrop.
Yeah.
It's almost the same value as the sky around it, but the gray spot in front of that is darker. So why is that lighter and the one in front is darker? Is that a shadow?
That's a good question. And I appreciate that you brought that up. It's actually.
Do you really?
I am, because I always wondered about that too. I literally took this from Carlson's book because it's my favorite page. And he has that lighter value in the background, and I've always questioned that. Why did you do that in this illustration that you're trying to make really clear? I think, it's probably how as things get far away, maybe they fade in value. In this case, maybe it's a river. I don't know, Eric. We'll have to ask John F. Carlson about this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when I get up there, or get down there, wherever he is. So, okay, but I wanted to ask that question because I think it raises it. Now, clearly things tend to get softer and a little bit lighter in the distance and bluer, but that could be a shadow shape in front. But it is lighter than the sky. I mean, darker than the sky and lighter than the mountain.
Right.
So maybe it's just a variation.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yes. So, okay, maybe we could switch to the next slide. Okay, so here we are. This is that day that painting came from, out here in Steamboat. And sometimes I actually like to use an app for this for value thing, not to help me find it, but just to help me refine it. Okay. So this is one of those apps. This one's called Notanizer. I don't know if you ever used that one, Eric.
Yep.
Yeah. What I like about it is it has 4 levels on it. So you can choose up above there 4 levels. And then you can change the sliders. I literally changed those sliders to make it what I see or what I wanted to do when I saw the scene, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the view is on the left, and I think that Amandine even enlarged that grayscale a little. It's a little bit fuzzy. But again, you can see where the darks and lights are in the landscape. Okay,
Yep.
so let's change to the next slide. So you can try different things. It doesn't always have to be the same 4 values out of these 10 that I showed you. You can choose which 4 you use. You're not locked into black. In fact, I don't think black is really a good one for that darkest value. I often go a little lighter than black, either if you see I numbered the scale, like maybe a 9 or an 8, not all the way to the end.
Well, a lot of people have taught me over the years that there is very rarely ever an occasion where you use pure black or pure white.
Yeah, yeah. Especially in the landscape, because no matter what, there's some distance between you and those upright things. So they're going to be faded, they're going to be a little bit farther away. So yeah, so on that, I had like a 9 or an 8. And as you try your different value combinations, you can see that you really changed the motif, which means what you're trying to say, or why you stop the car, or what it is that you're interested in painting, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so on the left, I had 2 values that are really close together, the 7 and the 8.
Yeah.
And then I 2 values that are close in the light department, because I really wanted to get clouds. So you can see that upper left part of that left painting has some detail in the sky. That's the clouds. Whereas on the right, if I'm only doing 4, and this is again like freedom and limitations, right? Like you are limited by 4. So I couldn't do anything in the sky because most of my value bank is in that really dark value that I needed as an accent. So that number 9 is like the only dark one. And that limits my other 3. So
Right.
just kind of play around with it. And that's where those sliders come in on that app.
Now, before you change that slide, I just want everybody to pay close attention to it, is if you squint down so that things are a little fuzzy, it helps. And secondly, the one on the right tends to draw your eye to a different place because there's so much more brightness. So keep in mind that you're drawing your eye based on where your bright lights tend to be.
Well, that's a really good point, because you can really manipulate where people's eye goes in your painting through your choices and your values. If you have really dark and next to really light, like I have a 9 and a 2, both in that tree grouping, everybody wants to look at that tree grouping. Whereas on the left side, I wanted to explore the subtleties in value on the mountains and in the sky. And so, that one's a little bit more about subtlety and less about contrast. And, you could be the judge of what's a stronger painting. I mean, I think probably the right is a stronger painting, but sometimes I'm just here to explore in my studio. What would happen?
Yep.
What if, Yep.
Yeah.
So let's go. Well, I'll show you the final. Oh yeah, great, you're back. Awesome. Okay. I'm gonna move up now and do a demo if you're ready for that, Eric.
We're absolutely excited about it.
I'm gonna move my camera here, so if you guys want to
Okay.
do something else. Yeah, so I have this. This is that value scale you saw behind me. What I do is I paint it with my palette knife, and then I cut it into strips. And then I have this strip attached to my easel somewhere. Today I put it out front so you guys can see it. Sometimes it's on the side so it doesn't get caught up in my.
Do you always have that on your easel no matter what?
I do every time. And I use it all the time. So what happens is I start mixing the dark down here, And like we were saying, so often you end up getting too dark. And so I touch it to here and I make sure it's the right value.
Nice.
See? And what I say by, I don't know if you want me to look, but what I say by right value is when you touch it onto here and you squint, it should disappear. No matter if it's color, the right color, gray, whatever, if it's the right value, it disappears within the field of this little square. So I've got my darks. Okay, I touch it onto this value. This is the one we decided when I made that plan earlier. So I have a little X here.
And do you always put your darks in first? I do.
I do. Yeah, I do. It's a very classical thing to do. Plus, it kind of anchors me. I don't know why. It's just sort of like, okay, my darks are in. So I come up here, kind of get these darks in. I made a plan, by the way, earlier where I divided this into fifths.
Yeah.
So I marked fifths on the side here.
Okay.
So my plan is this one right here is going to be the, actually, I think it'll be this one.
Okay. I'm just going to mention something I didn't mention before while you were doing that.
Yeah.
I see Rosemarie Mortensen in Sweden is watching, and she's going to be painting here because she can't make it to Colorado. But Rosemarie, you can watch the plein air convention online. And also, Rosemarie, I'm coming to Stockholm in October. I'm leading a group, an art group at finearttour.com if you want to learn about that.
Great. So, at this point, I'm kind of following my plan more than I'm following what I would be seeing in the landscape.
So nobody can see your reference photo. Do you have one?
I'm sorry. It's that one that is on the slide. I don't know if I'm in.
It's this one right here.
Flash to it. Yeah, that's the final painting I did out in the field that day.
Okay.
There it is. That's
all right. Well, we'll switch to that every once in a while.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I should have had that next.
No, you're fine.
This whole tech thing, Eric, you guys are really amazing. I love being part of this because I'm learning.
Well, we have Amandine as a rock star producer.
Yeah, seriously.
I just show up and talk. I have nothing to do with tech.
Well,
they try to keep me away from it.
Right?
That looks like it's kind of a purplish color.
It is. I kind of like doing purple for my darks because it has a bit of a glow underneath, especially in the summertime when everything is so green.
Yeah.
It's just
purple and green go well together.
Yeah, they do. And a little bit of that red, the purple red in there. All right. So I'm kind of saying, all right, I think that's about it for my darks. One trick, I don't know if you know this one, Eric, is where something goes off the top of the page, line it up on the bottom with something in the same spot. So I'm going to do a cattail right here because this mountain's going to come in.
We can't see the top of your canvas, so maybe you can tilt your camera.
Oh,
there, that's a little too much now. There you go. Okay, so explain that again. Nope, can't see it.
Okay, there we go.
Right.
So this slope of the mountain is going up the page up here.
Yep.
So I'm going to line that up vertically with something that's on the bottom. And
why?
It's another way to anchor your design.
Never heard of that.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
Well, and then
learn something new every day.
Yeah, might have another something in there too, just to kind of line it all up.
Okay.
All right. So I kind of have my darks in there. So then in the field, I would say, all right, next value. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, next value. In our plan, it's going to be this value right here. So I mixed already to save time that value of the blue mountains in the background. So it's kind of a steel, kind of a gray blue. And again, I'm going to touch it here. And it didn't show up when I painted it, just in case you wonder about what it would look like if it did show up. There's that, and there's that. You can see how it marks on the blocks next to it. So I'm looking for this value here. Figured it out. I'm going to lay it in. And I'm really thinking big shapes in these first days or first few moments of my painting. Big shapes and 4 values.
you guys have questions, put them in the comments, and make sure that if you see something that you like, share it with other people so they can discover how good Chula really is.
Ah, thank you, Eric. Well, this has been a great thing for me to really question how do I do this, right? Like so many times you just sort of do what you do. And it's really fun to give some thought to it. I do have a master's in education and I enjoy teaching.
Oh, good.
But this has been a fun kind of refresh on all that.
Nice.
All right, so this is that third value. You can see how it's lighter than the darkest value because it's slanted, right? So these are those slanted mountains. I need to do this far mountain right here, but I have to keep it the same value because I decided to limit myself to 4. Okay. So another way to show this distant mountain without changing the value is to add just a little bit more blue.
Interesting. Okay, let's check it on your value scale. Make sure
let's check it because blue makes things darker. So you have to be really, really careful. So here, I put that on there. Yep, that matches. So I'll just put this here just to get some distance, but it's still the same value.
I tend to make my distant mountains lighter, and what you're basically saying is you don't need to do that.
Not necessarily, although I do have the next step up is lighter than that. But yeah, I mean, you can sometimes just use, well, intensity, right? If you make it more gray.
But you're going for your big shapes right now anyway, so you might noodle that later.
Yep, exactly, right. Yeah, this is really just to anchor me in my plan. And then after that, I can play around with it, add some detail. All right, so then I'm going to do the light on the mountain up here. So it's slanted. It's not going to be as light as this floor, but it has light on it. So it needs to be lighter than these areas. So, and I don't know if you've seen the mountains where the light is hitting on them, especially if it's green, like the trees. Oh, such a beautiful kind of sagey green color.
Well, when we get to Colorado, it's going to be glowing green.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Or brown, like I said, mud season. But no, it's beautiful.
We don't care. We're together painting. We're going to have fun. Even if we're having a blizzard, we're going to have fun.
Oh, absolutely.
First year of the plein air convention, we did it in Las Vegas out in the hills. And we had literally had a snowstorm. Nobody expected, but we froze, but we had fun.
Yeah. Yep. There's, it's part of being a plein air painter. You got to get tough.
Yeah. Are you tough?
Me?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I grew up here in Steamboat. I'm a mountain girl. I'm tough. All right. So there's kind of that next value. And again, I have to stick to my value plan. So this one back here, I'm actually going to use a little bit more blue. Same value, but just blue it a little bit to push it back. You guys can switch to that source photo real quick just to kind of remind people what we're doing here.
Sally Ladd says, Eric, remember San Francisco in May? Oh yeah, it was cold. San Francisco is unusually cold all the time.
Yeah, I've heard
it's not unusually, it is. What was it? Mark Twain said the coldest winter he ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right. One thing is you got to be careful with sunscreen. Are you telling all your people to wear sunscreen?
You are.
Yeah, wear your sunscreen because it's cold or maybe it's a chilly day, but that sun, if it's out, it's going to burn you even if it's not cold out. So
yeah, especially because you're also higher altitude.
Yes, you're closer to the sun.
And I got to remind everybody, drink a lot of water before you come.
Yes.
Get yourself hydrated.
That's right. Bring a sun hat. Yeah, you definitely feel the sun. All right, so I got my darkest values and my second darkest values in right now. I also now need to do some of this second darkest value in the front, but it's not going to be as grayed out as these. So I was mixing it. And again, it's so helpful to have this scale. I don't know about you, but when I start getting towards the foreground, my values get all messed up because I want the hues, the color intensity to be there, but it still needs to be the correct value. So it's a little of a tricky thing. So again, I use this value scale here to make sure. So there's that. You can see how this is more intense in color.
Yeah. One of the little tricks I use is I use my value specs.
Oh yeah, I saw you gave those away. Those are cool. I've never used those before.
They're actually pretty helpful. I wear them even though I've hopefully mastered my values, but I put them on to check my painting, and I always find out I've got something wrong.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Check your own painting with them. So I've got that part, and then back here is this. And again, I'm just kind of referring to my plan that I made more than the original photo for now.
Yeah, we're going to show it one more time.
Yeah, you can even turn back to the plan that we talked about, those two options.
Okay.
Showed, because I'm constantly going back to that. Yeah, see, I'm doing the right side there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Got a little bit of that foreground lead in.
It's looking very elegant.
Oh, thank you. It's hard to paint inside, you know, because like outside it all comes naturally, but when you're inside, it's a little harder.
Yeah, that's why I love plein air painting.
I know, there's nothing like it, seriously. I was just painting outside again yesterday, and I was like, I'm home. I've been painting inside the studio all winter. Okay, so there's that second value. Now I'm going to do the second lightest value. So this is where the light is hitting on some of the foreground things. Okay. And again, I mixed it over here. Want to make sure I'm on track. That looks about right. You can always kind of put it on either side and see the difference.
It's a little, yeah.
See how that works?
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. And I got to say, let me just say something real quick, why these are so important. I've had this before, right? Everybody has this, but when you put oil paint on paper, it makes it darker. Like it messes up the values on here because the oil gets in the paper. So that's why I paint my own with oil paint.
And then do you put something over it so it doesn't, so it can wipe off?
No, I just make a bunch of them. And then when they get filled up, then I bring a new one out. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, see, I just made like a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you could sell those at the convention.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. We'll talk.
$50 each.
50. Eric gets 40. No.
No, Eric doesn't want any.
Eric, well, I'm telling you, it's the most useful tool I have. I tried those other value scales. Like I said, they got paint on them. They messed up. They just, yeah, you got to use actual oil paint in these. All right. So here's this lighter value that comes in handy here with doing some of this tree action. So you mentioned something about values on trees, like where the lights are. The lights are going to be at the top, maybe a couple side angles. Probably not very many of these number 2 lights, right? Probably more the midtones. I can also mix it with my other midtone color that I did before to gray it out for some of these background ones here. Okay. Oh, I totally forgot the water. Okay, that value. So this is where I go back to my plan. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to put.
Okay, go back to the plan, Amadine.
Yeah, let's go back to the plan. What was I doing? Oh yeah. So that's number 7.
All right. So that's water.
Yeah, so that's water, but it's reflecting the sky or the mountains in the background. A lot of times when you're in the mountains, water is going to reflect the hills behind it as opposed to the actual sky.
So when you're doing a reflection, is the value darker or lighter than the background?
Well, that's a good question. I think it depends on what you're doing. So basically, the reflection in the water, every value comes closer to the middle.
Okay.
So like if you have a dark, it becomes lighter. If you have a light, it becomes darker. Water kind of is an equalizer. It pushes every value into the center.
Yep. You passed the test.
Oh, that was a test? Okay. Good.
I have lots of trick questions.
You are tricky. Okay.
I am tricky, yes.
All right. So I'm just kind of throwing this in. Like I said, you can change things once you get it in. I'm really trying to get just like the big shapes. This might be too close. You know, I could lighten it just a tiny bit, maybe make it a little bit more blue. But that could also just become some nuance, we'll say, nuance in the water.
All right.
So
Hey, if you guys are new to us, we're here every day at 12 noon. We have people watching from all over the world every weekday at 12 noon and always have a different lesson. Every single day I learn something new, and I've been painting my last 25 plus years. And Chula, I want to let you know you've got about 12 or 13 minutes.
okay, perfect. All right. So I'm going to do this final value. And this is where this value scale comes in so handy, because I don't know about you, but I often make my lights too dark when I'm out in the field.
And that's because
Because
that oftentimes when you're out in the field, your paintings will come in and they'll be darker when you bring them indoors because you're not standing in the shade.
Oh, right. Oh, totally. Yes, and that I thank you for bringing that up. That's exactly why I even use this thing at all. You don't know where you're going to be, right? You don't know if you're going to be like under a tree or if you're going to be way out in a field with way too much light. So I can't trust my own judgment when it comes to value when I'm outside, but this always keeps me anchored on the right thing.
Value scale never lies.
Exactly. Thank you. That's my new that's my new slogan. The value scale never lies, because everything else does.
Right.
So before I even put this on, let me make sure. See, that's even a little too dark. Even here in my studio, I can't do values. See, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
My necessity, Eric, is that I'm the one who's not good at values. And so I'm like, okay, what kind of tools can I bring with me? Because it doesn't naturally come to me.
Well, don't beat yourself up. You know, values are tricky.
Yeah.
And the reason they're tricky is because our brain fools us. You know, you'll see a bright looking yellow and you think it's a high value, closer to white. And then when you put it on the value scale, you realize it's not.
Yes.
And so there are colors, like oftentimes people think red is really a high value color, but it's not. But it's because the chroma pops out.
Yes, that's so true. And I think the other point is that things are relative. So what you're looking at, you think, oh, that's really bright, but actually it's not. It's just that it's next to things that are dark. So, oh yeah, you can't really see me mixing this right now. So I'm trying to get this color of the ground, this one right here. And again,
so there's a question from Rachel Eddington who asks, where is red on the value scale? Why don't you have any red out? You can just pull it in and show her.
Yeah. Well, if I did pure alizarin crimson.
Let's just say, okay, alizarin crimson is a blue red.
This is alizarin crimson pretty much is this black down here. If you can
Yeah.
see marking dark on these two right here. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but a
If
alizarin.
you were to use like a CAD red light, where would
Exactly.
it fall?
Yeah, it really depends on what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
you know, that said, and I mean, geez, this is why I could learn every day. You were saying you learn something every day. This kind of painting, this will take more than a lifetime to master, right?
Yeah.
And when you're talking about values and color, I mean, yellow is light, purple is dark, but then, you know, take that and play with it. What is
Joanne Manji says that CAD red is a 5 value, a middle value. Thank you,
Okay.
Joanne.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Namaste from Mumbai, India. Hello, Sawapana. Sawapana.
Awesome.
All right.
Wow. Thanks for joining us. What time is it there? That's amazing.
Yeah, if you guys live outside of the US, post what time it is. We're just curious.
Yeah, that is so cool that you made it. All right, so I'm still trying to get this number 2 value. You can see I am getting dark. They're all
Yeah,
really
too dark.
Yep.
Too dark.
This is why I do this. Because
All right.
I feel like I have to force.
There's another one from India, Rosemarie Mortensen. Hello.
Nice.
Oh, no, she's saying hello to India. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
All right. I was going to say Mortensen doesn't sound like an Indian name.
Yeah, she could be traveling. All right. So
You
yeah.
guys are outside 6:45 p.m. in Italy, Linda Marie Crab.
Wow. So cool. Thanks for joining us. That is so awesome.
Yeah, it looks like you got it now.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Latvia. All right, Svetlana.
Cool. A lot of this is patience, just like you just saw. Like when I'm out in the field, I just want to get it done, right? And so I'm just like hurrying through these values. But man, it pays off to just wait till you get the right thing.
Sure does. Katrina Ring is in Lucca, Italy. It's 1845.
Okay, yeah. Evening. This is a nice thing to do in the evening.
1745 in England, says Gina.
Wow, Eric, what a following you have, international.
It's not me, it's you. Nobody ever listens when I'm on.
I don't know about that.
9:45 in Fresno.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lived in Fresno for a year. It's a foreign country, believe me.
That's funny. I know I had to be like constantly telling people it's going to be 10 o'clock in Colorado. Don't miss it. All right. So again, this is simple, right? I'm just doing simple things right now. I would definitely kind of play with this more. But
well, I think you really made the point in the lesson. You don't have to finish the painting, nor will you have time to, but I'm sure you'll post a finished version of it, or there is a similar version that we can show everybody.
Yeah, you can do that.
Whoops,
There you go.
there we are. So you can get a feel for what she would do with the water and put some a little of the sky in it and some of the purples and greens and so on. So that's really helpful. Chula, this has been absolutely fabulous. We've put a link to your website in the, and we also we will repost a link to the George Carlson book because you want to get the right one.
Very important.
And that's a must read for any artist.
It is.
So this has been absolutely terrific. And, you know, you hold the award for something unique. You know, nobody has taught this concept of vertical planes, horizontal planes, and angled planes. And I mean, we've been on this show every day for what, 3 years now?
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a often overlooked idea that can make things so much easier.